This is a CBC podcast.
Friends, it's me, Caitlin Prest, host of Radiotopia's The Heart, and now, The Shadows, a new CBC podcast. The show is about the quest for the ideal of romantic love, and how complicated that quest is. The question of whether that idea is still worth fighting for, if it's obsolete. The show's fiction. It's like that saying, fiction is the lie by which we tell the truth. The Shadows is out now. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Hi there, it's Heather Barrett with your Weekend AM podcast for October 13th and 14th. In just a few minutes, writer Karis Cotter will take us down the Ghost Road, and we will take a tour through some art that's here from away. But first, a storyteller brings us from a hillside in New Delhi to Signal Hill in St. John's. Now, Gaurav Madan is a graduate student in oceanography at Memorial University. Outside of his studies, he has two passions, long-distance running and storytelling. Gaurav is bringing his tales to the stage at the St. John's Storytelling Festival this evening. But before he does that, Gaurav dropped by the Weekend AM studio for a chat. Hello, Gaurav.
Hello.
So tell me a bit about you. Like, where are you from originally, and how did you get to St. John's?
Well, I'm originally from New Delhi in India, and I came to St. John's for my school, my grad school in oceanography,
Right.
at Memorial University.
But you're also a big into storytelling.
Yes, a bit.
So tell me a bit about that. Like, how big is storytelling in your life?
So storytelling came to me like about 2 years ago or so, when I started to tell the stories about my
Yes.
ultramarathons. You know, when you are running out there on trails, you always have a big story to tell.
Yes.
And so it started more as written stories, not something which I could present from the stage itself. And then slowly it molded into a form where I was actually narrating stories to my friends. And when I was actually narrating this to my friends and peers at the workplace, eventually I got an opportunity to share the same stories from the stage in Confabulation in Montreal. That was my first big break into storytelling. That was May last year. And from there I just got hooked up to that. The response that I got from people and the kind of comfort that I had developed on stage. Because prior to that, I had a tremendous stage fear. You know, I would be shaking if I knew that I'm stepping on stage. So the kind of confidence that I got from storytelling and how I was able to share those emotions with the people who were listening to those stories, I think that reciprocation of the same element that connects human beings really got me into storytelling, and I still continue to do that.
So you got into storytelling by running ultramarathons. Now, how long is an ultramarathon?
Well, anything more than a marathon technically can be called ultramarathon, but it's generally 50 kilometers or longer.
50 kilometers or longer?
Yes.
That's a long, long run. So tell me then how running very long distances brought you to this point where you're going to be on stage at the St. John's Storytelling Festival.
So I've been running for a very long time, and things happen when you're running these crazy distances, right? There's always a build-up before the big race, and then race starts with all the plans, and they all fall apart within the first few hours. And then things evolve in a different way, which sometimes is a funny story, sometimes a sad story, but there is always a story whenever you're out there. So when I realized, okay, there is always a story, and last year in February I was in Winnipeg, where funny sequence of events happened because that was my first ever winter, and finding myself in Winnipeg in temperature way below that I have ever been to.
So you've never experienced winter before last year?
No. Like winter would be like 2 degrees and people die in Delhi in these conditions.
Right, right. Okay.
So that was my winter.
And you ran an ultramarathon in that?
Yes.
For how long?
That was 120 kilometers.
120 kilometers.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, on hindsight, you can call that.
So tell me about the storytelling that came out of that then.
So, like, I thought I was prepared for that. I had seen a bit of Montreal winter. I thought if I wear right clothing, everything will be fine. But you can just be if I'm more polite, you can just be stupid when you think this way. So I was there thinking I will be able to do a lot better than what actually I did. And then it's Manitoba, prairies, vast flat lands. In Delhi, trust me, I'd never seen beyond 20 feet, right? Mm-hmm. And suddenly I'm in Manitoba where I can see 10 kilometers far, and there's just white flat land, nothing else. So I'm running towards this tree for hours and hours, and I'm still at the same place. It feels like that. So the way that race crushed me and the way I found myself again on that trail, that really inspired me to bring this experience into a story. And when I found a platform where I could share the story, I just went into it and did that, and people loved it.
How did you wind up moving then from New Delhi to Canada? Like, how did that happen?
So I got an opportunity at the University of Quebec 2 years ago for research scholar, realizing that as an opportunity to be here and experience the cultural diversity of Canada, which is not very much visible when you're in India. So that was my primary thought when I made this decision of, okay, I'll be in Canada for a couple of years, which was a very tough decision for my family. It took me 7 months to convince my father. So he finally agreed on the condition that I will return within the time period that I have promised, which I did, of course. But then the second innings happened when I got admission to MUN, and I said, okay, Canada already feels like home and I should return.
I want to ask you, too, about storytelling in New Delhi and in India, where you grew up. Like, is there a big tradition of telling tales where you're from?
Well, India, just like Newfoundland, has a long tradition of telling stories, but it's more confined to, when a couple of friends are sitting together. But when you talk about a storytelling event, just the way we have St. John's Festival, something like this is still not existing there, but there's a new stand-up comedy culture which has just started there, and it's getting stronger and stronger as years are progressing.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I think India, and Delhi in specific, they have a strong potential to have a good storytelling circle in future, but at the moment, it's a bit confined to a very small community.
And what did you think when you moved here to St. John's a few months ago and you realized there was like an organized storytelling scene to get involved with?
So I got to know about St. John's Storytelling Festival around March and April. That was the time when I knew that I'm going to move it to St. John's around May. So that was the time when I got in touch with St. John's Storytelling Festival, even before I arrived here. So I said, okay, you have storytelling circles. What should I do so I can tell a story there? So Katie Bryan, she replied that, okay, you just show up on one of those circles and see for yourself. So I landed on Sunday night here, and Tuesday I was telling a story here.
And what story did you tell?
Still in jet lag. So that was, to begin with, that was a very personal story. That was about my relation with my mom, who passed away 10 years ago. So how that evolved, how my relation with my family evolved, which began this journey of self-exploration that I started, which was accompanied by running and then which trickled down into storytelling. So a mix of a lot of things. I think why I chose that particular story to begin with in my journey in St. John's, I think that was a story which is very, very close to my heart. And that emotional rush to be back here again, I think the combination of both and connecting with my storytelling family, which is pretty big now, I think that was the best way to start my journey here.
So tell me then about the stories that you're going to tell at the St. John's Storytelling Festival. What are you going to bring to your audience?
So I always tell personal stories, not fiction or nothing, which are always true stories. I figured out this event is on Signal Hill. And when I got to know that I'm moving to St. John's, Signal Hill was my definition of St. John's. So I'm so happy that this event is happening at Signal Hill. And Signal Hill has an amazing history connected with that. A lot of stories from the World War that I read about, and a couple of murdered pirates, and then ghost ships. God knows what all has happened on St. John's. Similar to St. John's, in India we have a hill that has seen almost the same amount of miseries way back on the edge of Thar Desert. And those stories go as far as a couple of centuries. So I happened to be there on that hill, and I had certain experiences. So this story is about taking my audience from Signal Hill to that hill in India and share a journey of what I went through with that historical backdrop. So this is going to be a more of interesting experience for people to explore a place where they probably have never been to through my eyes and my experiences, with a major historic connection of Indian history.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks a lot for having me here.
That's Gaurav Madan. He's one of the storytellers taking part in the St. John's Storytelling Festival, which continues today and tomorrow. And you can hear Gaurav tell stories this evening at the Signal Hill Interpretation Centre Annex Room at 8 p.m. For more information on all the other happenings of the Storytelling Festival, check it out online, storytellingstjohns.ca/festival. My next guest likes to write about ghosts. Karis Cotter's latest book for young adults is called The Ghost Road. And meanwhile, Karis is hitting the road all month to schools across Newfoundland and Labrador to tell spooky tales and ghost stories. But right now,